Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Reach the World Weddell Sea Expedition call for today. So my name is Lizzie Rosenberger, and here at Reach the World, we're partnered with the Explorers Club and in partnership with the Flotilla Foundation to bring you these calls direct from Antarctica. We have Holly on board, and she has got a great team lined up for us today in a very special place in the ship that we have not yet seen. So this is going to be brand new and very exciting for us today. We, as always, are going to say hello to Holly and her team, and I'm also going to announce where you are for calling in from. How this is going to work, I will unmute you, and then you will give a big hello, Holly, and she has with her a team of the AUV team down there. So you can say hello to all of them, and then I'll mute you, and we'll head to our next class. So to start with, we are going to start with Mr. Lee's class calling in from California. All right, we can see you, but we didn't quite hear you. All right, awesome. And we'll unmute Holly so they can all say hello back. And then next we'll go to Miss Long's class. And they are calling in from Colorado.
Awesome.
Next we're gonna have, yay. We'll have Miss Ives' class.
Hello.
Excellent. And they are calling in from New Jersey. Next, we're going to have Mr. Thompson's class, who I believe is calling in from Massachusetts. Wonderful. Next, we have Miss Halburn's class, who I also believe is calling in from, I can't unmute you, so you're going to have to give us a nice big wave, but I believe you all are, oh, perfect. Also from Massachusetts. And then another Massachusetts, Mr. Whitney's class, Familiar Faces.
Hello. Hello again, everyone. America.
And then we have Miss Palmer's class calling in from Maine.
Hello.
Miss Palmer, hi.
And we have Miss Latour's class, who is calling in from New Jersey, I believe.
Hi.
Excellent. And we have Miss Kotzman's class that just joined, and they are also calling in from New Jersey. We'll unmute them. They don't have any video yet. And we'll see if we can have them wave when they get online. And then we have Mr. Scannell calling from, I'm actually not sure where you're calling from, Massachusetts?
From Massachusetts, yeah.
Excellent.
Welcome. Yeah.
Welcome. So I believe that is all of our classes. Welcome aboard. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it on over to you, Holly, and your team to get us started for today. Oh, the one other thing I forgot to mention, we also have my colleague Tim Jacobs with us here, and he is going to be in charge of the chat. So teachers and students, if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat and we will get to them. So now I'm going to turn it over to Holly.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hi from Antarctica. We are currently in the Weddell Sea, in one of the most remote and harshest environments on our globe. And I am live to you from the operations room, which we call the online room here. This is where we have contact with the AUV, and also where the AUV data is scanned through by our teams. So we have two teams here, one from Ocean Infinity, which is based in the States, and one from Deep Ocean Search, which is from France. So I thought the best way to do this is to give you a tour of the operations room, and you can get to meet the individuals as we go around. So without further ado, I will pass you over. Well, first get everyone to say hi.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So you'll get to know these guys individually as we go around the room. But I'm going to start off by introducing Channing Thomas, who is our team lead of the AUV team. So I will take you over to his desk. All right. So I'll go move slowly because communication can be quite slow here. All right. So this is Channing. Here he goes.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody can hear us. We are down in Antarctica. From what I hear, it's quite cold where y'all are. So if you could just imagine yourself on a boat with a bunch of ice, you'll basically be where we are. I am the team leader. My job's coordinating the team efforts as far as the maintenance to be done on the AUV, the launch and recoveries, the vessel movements, and so forth. As far as our team, we have a very highly experienced team here that was handpicked for this job. Obviously, these operations have never been done before in ice. So there's been a lot of exciting missions going on here. If you can imagine, actually, an AUV, I'm guessing that some of y'all have probably seen pictures of it, but an AUV is basically just a remote control submarine. Nobody flies in it. It does not have anybody in it. So first of all, let's get that out the way. It is strictly just a remote control submarine that flies down to the bottom and scans the terrain subsea. Whether it's a shipwreck, whether it's just a terrain, whether it's under the ice, what have you. It's got sensors on it that scans, and I'm imagining most of y'all have played with a remote control car, and basically that's all this is a remote control submarine. So let's go ahead and introduce you to the team. All of these guys are pilots and technicians, so they not only operate the AUVs, but they also work on them. So one at a time, come on up here, and they're going to tell you their name and what state they're from.
All right, Todd.
Hello, I'm Todd, and I'm from Michigan. I'm one of the AUV operators. I help launch and recover, and sometimes run in the operations room operating the machine. I am from Michigan, where it's also cold.
All right.
I'm Blake. I'm from North Carolina. My main job is to do the operations on the inside here in the lab and control the AUV, drive it.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Devin. I'm from Louisiana, and I can operate the AUV, but my main job is out on the back deck, launches and recoveries, and doing any troubleshooting and technical work.
Hello, my name's Chad. I'm from Louisiana. My main job is the 40 nav mission planner and HOS operator.
Hello, my name is Espen. I'm from a country called Norway, cold-based as well. I work in for a company called Kongsberg, and we build these vehicles.
All right, well, that's the team. Like I said, most of them are from the states where you're at. Myself, I'm from Louisiana. So if I can show you where we actually plan the missions, this is the software that we actually use. And the white that you actually see is the land base in Antarctica. So at the moment, we're at this particular point is where the ship is. We're headed to King George to pick up some supplies. After that, in the next day or two, we'll actually be going to this blue area. If the computer is speed up, and you can actually see the mission that we're building. Now, there's two separate missions there. There's two different colors. The one on the left is going to be mission 1 and then mission 2. This is actually the Endurance site where the Endurance sank in 1915. I'm sure you teachers can tell you a little bit more on the history of that, but this is where we'll be looking. Now, the blue in the background is just the contour of the seabed. So we use this to actually judge where we need to place the AUV and the direction we need to run the AUV in. So everything starts with this mission plan. This mission plan is actually uploaded into the AUV, and then once the AUV is launched and the operators actually release it into autonomous mode, it actually follows these lines for the mission plan until it reaches the and then to the surface for recovery. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass you on to Blake. He's going to explain a little bit of the operation side of it.
Awesome. Hi everyone, I'm going to take you over to Blake. Here we go.
Hi everybody. This is this is the mission side.
Yes.
Show the screen here.
Yeah.
And this is where we do all of our pre-checks before launching the AUV. And we actually have a little. Okay. Oh, it's not that word. A little replay of a mission here. So this is essentially what the AUV does. In fast forward motion, obviously it does not go this fast, but we sit in one spot for this particular one and let the AUV do its thing. We don't need to send many communications to it because we put all of the commands into the AUV before we send it down. So the AUV knows what it needs to do and how long it needs to go for. So when the AUV finishes its mission, we go pick the AUV up, bring it back on board.
Nice one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. If you guys have any questions at this point, make sure you type them in the chat below, but also hold on to those questions to ask the team right at the end. Cool. Does anyone want to explain? Oh. Okay. All right. Cool. So we're going to come back to the rest of the team at the end, and you can ask questions. But for now, I'm going to introduce you to our offshore manager, Claire Samuel.
Hey guys. So sorry for the weird accent, French accent. I'm the offshore manager on this expedition. So basically, I coordinate subsea operations, AUV and ROV, the coring, the CTD, which is conductivity, salinity, temperature. So everything is going in the water from the vessel. I try to plan different operations, coordinate. I'm also planning the AUV missions, depending of what we're looking for. Yeah, get the settings and things like that. To oversee basically all these operations.
Claire's a very, very busy woman. You know, like your headmaster at school, Claire is the person basically makes all the decisions on their back deck. She's the boss. Awesome. So I want to take you over to Claire's team, Deep Ocean Search, who are the ones who go through the data that comes from the AUVs once it's back on deck. All right. Want to come with? I can see lots of you are asking really good questions, so keep them coming. All right. I'm going to introduce you, or Claire can introduce you actually.
Yes. So here is the processing side on the operation room with Pierre and Julian.
Everyone.
So when we recover the AUV, all the data are going to these guys who check everything and get some really nice image from the seabed.
So this is where the real magic happens. We receive everything. We are the first to see the data when the AUV is coming on deck. Those guys would not agree with me. That's the way. This is what we're looking at most of our days. We get colorful things here, which are multi-beam data, which multi-beam is echo sounding. So we're measuring the seabed height using sound. There you go, just to show you how it looks like. It's giving us a three-dimensional view of the seabed like this. Or in detail, when we get area of particular interest, we can zoom in and have more detail about it. Here, this is what we collect last week for the science people. There you go. This is what was underneath the ice. This is the seabed under the ice. So this part is multi-beam mapping the seabed. We are not using this sensor to look for things. This is only for mapping purposes. When we are actually looking for targets, we're using a different sensor called the scan sonar, which looks less interesting like this because it's all gray scale. My colleague Pierre here is really fond of this one, but But this is basically the sensor we are using to look for shipwreck. There you go, less sexy, but that's how it is. But at the end, we can have image like this. You can see an old shipwreck from the 1940s. It's not from here, I'm afraid. It's from the English Channel. This is a shipwreck mapping with the sound. It looks like it's basically a picture, but instead of using light, we're using sound. This is how it looks like. But with the multi-beam I showed you earlier, we used to map the seabed. We can also map shipwrecks. So this is how it looks like. This is cool as well. This is 3D images with lots of color. So to make a long story short, this is where we have the data. This is where the first site of the Endurance, if we find it, would be. This would be on one of those two computers. There you go.
Cool. Thank you so much for showing us that. Right, we're going to bring it back to the front, and everyone can gather around. All right.
I've got one more thing to add.
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah.
All right, just to give you an idea of the AUV, how deep it goes. It goes 6,000 meters, but the Endurance site that we're actually going to search at is at 3,000 meters. Now, I know being in the United States, we deal with footage and instead of meters, but to give you a sense of how deep it is, it's about 32 football fields below the ocean. Also, with the amount of pressure at that depth, you can basically imagine a car balancing on your head. And that's about how heavy it would be at that depth. So without further ado, if you've got any questions, we can do a little question and answer. Please.
So I'm actually going to pass over to the team at this point. So you guys want to all gather around the camera. If you want to sit here or someone wants to sit here.
Go ahead.
Chad, maybe.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. And we will see you next week, Holly. So thank you for that. And students, we've seen a lot of questions coming in through the chat, but if you all have a question in your classroom, go ahead and raise your hands, and then we will see. It looks like we've got lots of questions. So we'll start first with Mr. Thompson's class, and then go down to Mr. Lee's, and then over to Miss Long's, so you can prepare yourselves for your questions. So Mr. Thompson's, I'm going to unmute you. And you can speak nice and loudly into the camera.
All right. Can you see any effects of climate change down there?
As much science as we've done, they haven't been able to get all the data back. From what I understand, on the west side of Antarctica, they actually have proven that some climate change has taken effect. But that's part of the reason we're doing the science here in the Weddell Sea is to be able to prove that. With A68, which is the big iceberg that broke off of Larsen Sea in 2017. But until they actually get through all the data, I can't answer whether it's actual climate change on this side of Antarctica or not.
And I'm sure it takes a long time to get through all of the data that you all are collecting down there. So Mr. Lee's class, you look ready to go. Go right ahead. So we can't quite hear you. Try speaking a little bit louder into the microphone. It still is a little bit too low. So if you guys could type your question into the chat, and then we'll go to Miss Long's class and then come right back to you with your question, all right? All right, Miss Long's class, go ahead.
How do you pilot the AUVs, like by a remote or on a computer?
Piloting the AUVs is done on the computer itself. Actually load the mission plan up into the computer itself. and all the other commands are actually given from the computer, from the software. So there's not an actual remote control or an Xbox controller for it. It's actually done through the keypad or keyboard. So good question, buddy.
Excellent. And so Mr. Lee's class was wondering, how long is the mission going to take?
It's a good question. We have several missions planned for the endurance search area. We have 2 long missions that are approximately 35 hours apiece, and we'll have 1 or 2 missions after that for an investigation, which we call a POI. At that point, thank you, point of interest. So the investigation will probably take about 10 hours per mission. So we're looking at probably 4 missions, and it takes several days. We have a total of 5 days on the search area. So we'll be running missions the entire time.
Sounds like you'll be very busy. All right, it looks like Ms. Kotzman's class has some questions. So we'll go Ms. Kotzman, and then we'll go over to Ms. Latour. You look very eager to ask your questions. So we'll start with Ms. Kotzman. So let's go right ahead.
If you guys ever find the ship with the AUV, how will you know how deep it is?
How we know how deep it is.
Well, the AUV has different sensors on it for depth and altimeters to be able to tell you how deep it actually is. Also, with processing, which you just met the French guys a few minutes ago, they can actually tell you the actual height of the ship, the measurements, the length, the width, and so forth from the data.
Wow, lots of information. All right, Miss Latour's class, you are next.
How did you end up finding the AUV after it was under the iceberg for 3 days?
Oh, you heard about that, huh?
We did. We were sent a few pictures to see a little preview, but we're very interested in it.
Wow, that was an interesting scenario. We actually got a contact from it. Basically, the vessel was trying to talk to the AUV and vice versa, and actually got a ping from it. Once we got that ping, the ship got closer to that area and stayed still so we could try to get more communication between it. And as time went on, we started zeroing in on the location. Now, the vessel actually started breaking through ice to actually get closer to it. And as the vessel broke through more ice, we actually started getting better comms to zero in on its location.
Excellent. And for classes, comms, just to give you background, is communications, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Miss Palmer's class, you all are next, and then it looks like Mr. Scannell has a couple questions, and I see Mr. Thompson's class as well, so we'll go in that order. All right, Miss Palmer's, you're unmuted. Go right ahead.
So how big is the ship that you're on right now?
And Oren, what's your question?
The ship we're on right now is approximately 130 meters, which would be, what, 350 feet? So a little longer than a football field. It's a very well-built ship. It's an actual ice-breaking ship. And I think we can do, 5 knots through 3 meters of ice. So it can break a lot of ice.
Are there any sea animals, and how are you FaceTime?
Okay. Oren
I
wants to
couldn't
know
quite catch that.
if you've seen any animals.
We have seen quite a good bit of animals. We've seen whales, seals, several different types of seals, several different types of penguins. I actually had one of the girls actually got attacked by a penguin. So, but there is quite a good bit of wildlife out here. So.
Excellent. And we're headed up to Mr. Scannell and then Thompson. And all right, Mr. Scannell, you are live. Go right ahead.
All right, hey guys. I was just wondering, what sort of motivated you guys more? I mean, you guys talked about how one of your objectives is to maybe look into some climate change that may have been occurring, but was it more biological interest in the biological life, or was it more just historical excitement to be able to finally find Ernest Shackner's ship?
Hi, I'm just back, and I just caught the end of your question. So we came out here primarily to do some scientific research. We have some glaciologists with us. We have some marine biologists with us. So there's a huge team, and then it's multi-purpose. So, you know, we are so close. We're investigating an area called the Larsen Sea Ice Shelf, which has a massive iceberg called A68 attached to it, which detached in July 2017. And this is a very close location to the sinking site, where we think the sinking site of the Endurance is. So we thought, we're only 120 kilometers away. What is the harm of trying to get there? But it is a very unforgiving environment. We already need to turn around and pick up more supplies because the pack ice is so thick. And it is quite risky, but we have a very sophisticated vessel called the Agulhas 2 with us. And yeah, so it's for both reasons mainly, historical and scientific. Cool, I'll pass you back to the team.
Excellent. And
I'd like to also that this is one of the best years for us to actually get down to the locations since I think I heard 2002. So most of the time, even though it's summer months down here, it's still extremely cold and plenty of ice. But considering this time of year with this vessel, we tried to get everything done at one time. So like she had said just a minute ago, there's the science, the historical side of it, the marine archaeologist side of it, and so forth. Just like I said, to try to get everything done at one time since we can get to the locations.
And just as a follow-up on that, for you as the AUV technicians and pilots and experts in the AUVs, is there any part of it that is most exciting for you individually, whether it be the science or looking for the ship or just reading what's happening or programming the code? What's the most exciting piece to each of you?
I'm going to pass you over to the team for this one. They can give you a little insight on what they think or what they like, and go from there.
My favorite part is going to be searching for and locating Shackleton's ship, just mainly for the history and coming full circle. Now that we're here and can actually try to locate it.
My favorite thing is the unique challenge of operating under ice. There's a lot of risk in launches and recoveries with ice on surface and with small areas of open water to launch and recovery. So it presents a lot of challenges, and it's a lot of unique opportunities to think of ways to look outside the box and figure out solutions.
For me, the most exciting thing is doing something no one's ever done before. Pioneering.
Yeah. For me, it's a combination of all of that. The scientific aspect, the piloting under ice, which has never been done, which is awesome, and the historical value of this trip. So everything all combined is a heck of an experience couldn't pass up.
Have you answered?
I'm good.
Lizzie, I'm just going to pass you over now to our team from Deep Ocean Search to answer some questions as well about finding wrecks on the seabed. So have a think, everyone, just while we swap over the teams. The OI guys will still be around if you want to ask them questions. But I'm going to pass you over to Claire Samuel, Pierre Legal, and Julian Trincali.
Excellent. Thank you, Holly. So students thinking about what you can think about with ships on the ocean floor. Any questions around that? So it looks like Miss Long's class has a question, so we'll start with you all, and then if there's anyone else who has questions getting ready, Mr. Thompson's class, I think you were maybe next, so we'll circle back to you after Miss Long's. All right, Miss Long, go ahead.
How deep can the AUVs go?
How deep the AUV can go? That's your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 6,000 meters.
20,000 feet deep.
So that is pretty deep. All right, Mr. Thompson's class.
So yeah, my class had to leave. School's over, but I'm still in here. But my question for you was basically, you know, like when you guys are out on the ship deck, what kind of temperatures are you dealing with on a day-to-day basis? And what's like the coldest temperature you guys have experienced?
It was -3, -1 since we're here.
Yeah, Celsius.
Celsius, yeah. 25, 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
And the wind is quite cold also.
Yeah, today, especially today, it's quite cold.
Do the winds and the temperatures have effects on what you can see deep down, or how the data comes out, or launching the vehicles?
No, not really. No, there's no effect from the surface on the data we collect on the bottom.
Great.
Especially temperature.
There is a constant from the surface to the bottom, approximately -1 degree. So the surface temperature is not affecting us in any occasion.
All right. So
it's affecting the speed of sound, the speed of sound that we used in some of our equipment to make measurements. We need to know the speed of sound for positioning and in underwater. So the temperature can have an effect on this, the seawater temperature.
Excellent. So it looks like we have a question from Mr. Whitney's class, and then we'll go to Mr. Lee's class.
Go. Okay. So are you concerned at all that technology will improve in like 30 years time to the point where like you just have to like kind of just have to make the way back and treasure, like maybe like what you did now might even disturb the technology of the future, stuff like that, you know? Just concerned about the advancement of technology and just having to come back here, like maybe disturbing it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean the technology is evolving all the time. We can see with these AUVs that we are using now, it's quite amazing what we can do with them, and we discover more and more for each project, especially here under the ice, where it's completely new for all of us here. But yeah, I'm sure in 30 years there will be more equipment, really fancy equipment to map the seabed, to find things on the seabed, and
And as a follow-up to add on to that, how has the technology changed in the past couple of years to make what you're doing possible?
I think the electronics and all the IT change into the electronics parts make now some equipment really efficient and
And before it was tracked behind some vessel, the equipment were tracked behind the vessel. And now with the AUV, we have new capability to go to map the seafloor, and it's much more easier and produce in autonomous, and produce better data than before. And it's evolved quite quickly, the technology.
30 years ago, you can have an equipment this size, and now it's like this size. So yeah,
it's evolving quite quickly.
Yeah, quite quickly. Yeah.
Excellent. So next we'll go to Mr. Lee's class, and then we'll head over to Mount Alvernia, and then I believe Ms. Palmer will be after that. So Mr. Lee's class, go ahead. So unfortunately, Mr. Lee, we still can't hear you all, but we can see you asking the question. So if you want to go ahead and type your question into the chat, then I will repeat it for our team out there. So we'll head over to Mount Alvernia. Here you go.
We were wondering, what is the protocol in case of a medical emergency?
That's good. We have a doctor on board.
Yeah, we have a doctor for medical. Yeah, there is a doctor in the expedition. She's on board all the time. And she's familiar with Antarctica also. I think she, and yeah, there is an hospital, medicines, and yeah, all the basics for any injuries can happen to people sick.
Excellent.
If we were to get really serious, we can land a helicopter on the boat to take someone off and get them to a hospital as quickly as possible.
Very important. And I believe you guys also, Holly was telling us that you guys have practices and you do drills, kind of like students at school do a fire drill. They also have training before they go on to the vessel as to what to do in case of emergencies. And then when in transit, they also have drills as well. So everyone is definitely safe while on board and knows what to do in case of emergency. So Mr. Lee's question for you was, what makes your submarine different from others so the pressure does not crush it?
Espen will reply to this one.
Well, the AUV is built with high density syntactic foam. That's what the entire body of it is made out of. There's also components that house our important electrical equipment, the brains of the control system for the AUV, along with the brains for all the sensors themselves. And those are housed in big titanium 1 atmosphere spheres, which means those spheres are just filled with air. They don't get compensated, they don't get flooded with water, and it protects all of our computer equipment. Those are built to withstand the pressures. Other things like our batteries are actually compensated with oil. So the inside of the battery compartment is completely filled with oil, and there's a compensator that's full of oil that, as water pressure pushes on a diaphragm, it pushes that oil inside the housing. So the pressure is equalized inside and outside.
Wow, that sounds very complex, but like it works very well. So we have Mr. Whitney. I see in the chat you all have a question. So I'm going to go ahead over to you all and you can speak nice and loudly for us. And go ahead, Mr. Whitney's class.
All right, one more question. That's you, Tegan, nice and loud. Can you say it? All right, Bill, you go.
Okay.
Loud.
What is one of the most valuable things you could find from the Shackleton ship?
We cannot touch the shipwreck, so we're just gonna map it and try to map it really accurately with a lot of pictures. And
we want to do a 3D model of the wrecks and many pictures of it, but that's it. We don't touch anything. And valuable on board. I mean, everything is kind of valuable for any museum because old wreck, really famous. Yeah, I think.
It's been inaccessible to this point.
Yeah.
Excellent, and we have just time for one more question, so we're going to head to Miss Palmer's class for our last question for today, and then any other questions please put into the chat and we will send down to the ship and see if they can send us back some answers. So Miss Palmer's class, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. We have two real quick questions. Go, Willow.
How cold is the water there?
And Cameron.
What's the time difference between Maine and there?
What 5 hours. 5 hours. 5 hours time difference. We are ahead of you 5 hours, and the water temperature is 1 degree below freezing, and it can go 1 degree below freezing because it is a salt water.
Excellent. So on behalf of all of the schools, thank you all so much for joining us today. It is such a treat to have so many of you live from Antarctica and being able to see what the inside of your room is like, where you guys make everything happen, and to show us some of your images that you've been finding and the data you've been collecting. That is beyond amazing and so spectacular for us. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with all of us schools. And students, I'm going to go ahead and unmute all of you so you can say a quick thank you and a goodbye to our speakers. I just lost how to unmute you all, but I'm going to find it one at a time. So when you're unmuted, you can say,
thanks, guys.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you taking the time to answer our questions. It was an awesome experience.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much to you all again, and we wish you all the best of luck in finding the endurance and with all of the science that you have collected as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, have a wonderful afternoon. Yes, Holly.
We will let you know when the next. Thanks.
Yep, thanks. See you later.